Thanks for staying with us. We're coming to you live from MultiChoice City in Randburg here in Johannesburg, because in just around 45 minutes time, 40 minutes even, we will be hearing from South African rugby. They will be announcing their squad that they'll be sending to Japan to take part in the 2019 World Cup. Now, we've gathered some of the sport's top analysts and journalists and opinion makers to discuss just how we believe the permutations will play its way out in the making up of that 31-man squad that we're expecting to hear at just around 3 o'clock. With me in our little self-made studio, I've got veteran rugby journalist Brendan Nell, as well as World Rugby Hall of Fame inductee and a star fly-off in his day, Kennedy Timber. Kennedy, thank you so much for joining me here this afternoon and for getting through the traffic, as is always the case in Johannesburg. Kennedy, perhaps let me start with you. You will have an idea, in as much as you never had the opportunity to wear the green and gold, you've played the game at some of its highest levels. The lead up to a big team announcement, what would some of our country's top players who know that they've put everything out there, what would be going through their minds, and perhaps what kind of butterflies or eagles are they feeling in their stomachs right now?
No, I think you put it right. Eagles would be flying around in their stomachs. It's a nervy type time. It's funny enough that even though if you've got a small feeling that you have made it, there is that little space that maybe, you know, there was a selection dilemma and you were one of them and you just missed out. So it's funny. Some of them are confident and some of them are very, very nervous. Those who are sort of on the fringes, who really don't know whether they're going or not, are not having the best of days. And those who might not be thinking about going and have got a small little chance of, I might just go, are also just listening, you know, in the background there. So it's a big day for all the players.
Well, in your day, I suppose it wouldn't have been part and parcel of a change room to have psychologists on hand and that kind of thing. But what kind of conversation are you having with yourself just to keep yourself steady?
To calm down. Well, I think the best thing is a lot of people surround themselves with family and close friends. Some of them are busy playing PlayStation and all sorts of things just to take their mind off this announcement. And I think that's probably the best way to get through it, because it is. I mean, World Cups are very important. They only come 4 years.
And you only have a chance
year.
So many times in your lifetime to take part, right?
Exactly, and sometimes you think you might not have just done enough. So you know, you've got all these sort of emotions going on, and I think family and friends tend to be the best just to calm you down and you know, get you through it.
Brendan, you have spent and continue to spend quite a bit of time very as close as a journalist or a person outside of a team could potentially get to a team. A lot has been said over the last couple of months and weeks about there being a very different kind of atmosphere inside of the squad in preparation for this World Cup. What has stood out for you as being the real difference in the way this team is prepared and the atmosphere that they find themselves in with just about 40 minutes to go to the announcement?
Well, I think the biggest thing to me has been the honesty, and that comes down to Rassie Erasmus being honest with the players. And by that, I'm not saying other coaches haven't been honest, but a lot of coaches like to keep a bit of suspense, keep players guessing. From day one, he's told every single player where they stand, and we saw it before the first test against Australia. The team against New Zealand knew who they were. The team who played in Argentina knew who they were. And the team to come back to play at Loftus also knew who they were 3-4 weeks in advance. So there's been meticulous planning about this, and there's been honesty from Rassie. And I think that's made a difference. Each player knows. They're confident. They know where they stand. They know what they have to do to get into the squad as well. And by now, I'm sure a lot of them probably know if they are in the squad as well.
Let's talk about then these kinds of communication changes that seems to have come along with Rassie Erasmus. Now, I seem to remember during his time as, I think he was director of rugby in Cape Town with Western Province. Is that correct, right?
Yeah.
His relationship with the media and the communication from his office wasn't a standout part of his time there. Do you think that he too has matured in his transition from player to coach and also director of rugby?
I think so. And Kennedy and I were talking about it a bit earlier about how he's matured. We think the days back where he was Cheetah's coach with those lights on the top of the roof that he had and all the little tricks he's had, he's matured. And I think the big thing was when he went to Munster in Ireland. That was the big difference for him, when he went there, and he had a very good 2 seasons there and came back a very different coach. I think that professional environment, he brought a lot of that back with him.
Because he's been almost a different person since he's come and said, right, I'm going to do it, I'm willing, I'm director of rugby and coach. He's really been, for want of a better word, very transparent and open.
He has, and I think the thing is as well, he's accepted the responsibility onto him. He wants to win this World Cup. He wants to do well with the Springboks. And he knows it's not just about his job, it's about the hope of the country and the players, and he wants to build a legacy. So I think that's the difference we've seen. The Rassie we saw maybe before he went overseas was a guy who was a lot more, took a lot of things personally, had a couple of personal battles with journalists and things like that. And the Rassie that's come back has been totally different, and he's been a pleasure to work with.
Now, for our viewers watching at home, there's been an increase in song behind us, and I can't see them, but I'm pretty sure those are the sounds of the Guija squad who've really made their presence felt in rugby circles, especially at Springbok level, over the last couple of seasons, really. They are, of course, part and parcel of a rugby tradition in various parts of South Africa, and thankfully, finally, they're also making their voices heard at a provincial and Springbok level as well. So the sounds that you're hearing behind us, that's the Guija squad, who thankfully have been brought in as part of the warm-up before the big announcement. Now, Kennedy, back to you. We're speaking about the impact that a coach like Rassie Erasmus has had. From what you know of him, what you've been able to observe, when he was a player, he was very much a thinking man's rugby player at the time, from what I've been able to deduce from people who've told me. And he's taken that personality trait into his coaching as well. Meticulous, almost scientific about the way that he's gone about his business. But that's not always the case when a player decides to make the transition from player to coach. What for you has stood out for you, for Rassie Erasmus 2.0, as it were?
Well, funny enough, we used to share a video analysis time at the Cheetahs till about 12 o'clock at midnight.
Oh, you should have said that at the beginning.
While we're preparing for games. So one thing I know is that he's astute when it comes to the game. He used to be a technical analysis when he started with us while we were still playing. He was doing that while he was still playing. So he understands the game and he looks at it differently from the other coaches. Some coaches are motivational, some are very tactical. The ones which are tactical always do better because the players can relate to them. So if you're playing and your coach really knows the little tactics of the game and the little niggles and the finer nuances of the game, you always respect a coach and you can respond to a coach better that way. And I think that's Rassie's greatest strength. And he sort of knows how to pick his assistant coaches. He hasn't gone with this big team that you look at the England coaches. Eddie Jones has got almost a 15-man team to coach a 15-man rugby team. He's gone with 3 or 4 trusted coaches that he's worked with.
Lead and mean.
Exactly, and that's less voices for the players to hear, and it's more successful for players to obviously have less voices to hear from. So I think that's been one of his successes.
Does that tell you something about his personality as well? He likes to have a small circle around him, people that he can trust, doesn't make a big brouhaha about things. He likes to see his work speak for itself.
Yeah, definitely. But the boy coming from Dispatch, they like things in small masses.
They roll in small gangs.
Exactly. So, and I think that's what he's done. He did that well in Blom when we won the Currie Cup. So I think he's just taken, and he's been learning, as we've spoken about, his maturity. He really has changed, from the player that we used to play with. If you speak to him now, you think you're speaking to your granddad or something, and you kind of, the difference is very, very, it's encouraging, and it builds well for the World Cup ahead.
Okay, we're going to leave it there for now. Some more to come from our gathered group of analysts that we've got here in part of our lead up to that announcement at 3 o'clock. The Rugby World Cup squad for the Springboks will be announced. With me, I've had Brendan Nell, rugby journalist, and a star fly-off in his day, Kennedy Tsimba, World Rugby Hall of Fame inductee. And as we just heard, somebody who's had really close relations, as it were, with Rassie Erasmus, who